information about everything that you're doing is somehow desirable instead of deeply unsettling.
Yeah. You know, the critics are saying that with the national debt being so high, is this really the time to be spending even more money on spy programs?
Well, actually, the Facebook program saves the CIA money.
That's right.
Like the Maps application where you list every place that you've been, whether it's at the state or a country. Or...
Oh, right, with the little pins to show where you visited. Yeah,
yes.
I like that.
That kind of information would have taken the CIA months of going through hotel receipts and plane tickets to figure it all out.
The calendar feature even lets the CIA know where you're going to be in advance. So that's
right. So now if they want to pick you up for questioning, all they have to do is see which events you RSVP'd yes to and then send their agents to be waiting for you. But guys, with all the focus on the Facebook program, is it taking away from some of the other CIA programs like the Twitter initiative?
Yeah, the funding for that should be cut entirely.
Right, 400 billion tweets and not one useful bit of data was ever transmitted.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Hello and welcome to the Revolutionary Radio Project here on TFR. Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening, and I am excited to be back in the saddle again. I know it's been a while since I've done a show here. Sorry about that, just been crazy busy as usual, but I'm excited to pick up where we left off in our study of Genesis with my friend and co-host Zen Garcia. Zen, are you there, sir?
I am, brother. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, man, doing good. That little Facebook piece right before we came on here, I don't know if you could hear it, but that was right on, right on target.
It's so funny, huh?
Funny if it wasn't so pathetically true.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm on my second 30-day ban in 2 months. So.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I was banned for all of June, and then I was on for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and then got banned again for another 30 days. So,
oh, my goodness.
But it's helped me, man. I have no desire to go back. In fact, what I might do is just go back and download some of the stuff that I think I want to keep, and then say bye. You know, it's just so ridiculous there.
It's a time consumer. I mean, you know, even a lot of the girls that work for me, they spend a lot of their time just looking at their phone and doing Facebook.
Oh yeah, I've wasted way too much of my life on that stupid site, for sure.
Yeah, it'll suck you in.
Yeah, man. So what's new in your world since last we spoke?
Just doing all of the things that, you know, still focused on. Farming and learning as far as yield with the cryptocurrency and doing a lot of that, and actually it takes up at least like an hour, you know, when I first get up to do all the things that I'm involved in as far as the different projects. But then I move on, and I've been writing an article about the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to connect and, you know, cite the article that you wrote, because I thought it was perfectly written, and it will definitely add to the premise and the content that I'm going to be bringing forth. I spent a lot of time reading through all the apocryphal texts really carefully and pulling out all the pieces as far as, you know, the feminine aspect of the Godhead and how it all ties together and resembles even a human family and all of those things. So that I'll be releasing on Noel Hadley's website at some point very soon, and just working on new books and new projects, and you know, trying to keep it all together.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I've been just really trying to crank out my presentations to get them done for Take on the World. I've got 2 of the 3 done, and I the third one, what I typically do is just do a brain dump, like in my ideal world, if I had like a 10-hour lecture, you know, here's everything I would talk about, and then I got to go hack it down to whatever my time slot is. So I finished the brain dump. Now I got to go in there and start hacking it up so I can make sure I can complete it in 2 hours. But man, I got a revelation today, pardon the pun, while I was reading the book of Revelation, because there's a growing number of people, including I think Noel Hadley, if I'm not mistaken, but there's a growing number of people that are starting to embrace the idea of preterism, that
really
the prophecy was fulfilled in 70 AD. I could be mistaken on Noel, but for some reason it seems to me like he was dabbling in that anyway. But and to be fair, I mean, if you want to say partial preterism, I could agree with that. If you like that, they were like, for instance, Matthew 24 and Luke 21. I can go through those and sort of like a checklist go, yeah, I could see that happening in 70 AD, but I can only go so far.
Right.
I get to a certain point and I'm like, nope. Right from that point on, that didn't happen. And one of a really big one was when Yeshua says that this message of the kingdom will be preached in all the world first.
Right.
And then the end shall come.
Then the end will come, yeah.
Clearly that didn't happen in 70 AD.
Right.
That, and then from there forward, I mean, it just, kind of gets worse for their case, frankly.
Right. In fact, 70 AD and after that was really the beginning of the Great Commission, as far as, because it took some time to get out and to go to all the different parts of the world and to speak the gospel and start baptizing in the name. But there's many things that in the scripture, especially in Revelation, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, and the Apocalypse, Peter, which not a lot of people are familiar with, but then there are many other apocryphal texts. There's the Apocalypse of Thomas, the Apocalypse of James. There's all these apocalyptic texts that I believe you have to include when you're doing a study on the end times, because they were very focusedly written, and even the Book of Enoch. There's so much in the Book of Enoch as well. I mean, even the animal farm parable that goes through all the generations. It's clearly, he even says he's writing for a remote and distant generation. That's a long ways out. So
yeah, I was talking with, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Brian Godawa. Oh, by the way, I just found out. Brian? Do you know Brian? Who he is?
I've never met him or been introduced to him, but I know his work. Yes.
Yeah. He just moved to Texas. He's
oh, really? Right on.
I found out he's like 20 minutes away from me.
That's cool.
Like just in the last couple of days, because it was kind of weird, man. Like he was really on my mind over the weekend. I was like, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie To End All Wars with Kiefer Sutherland. If you haven't, it's a fantastic movie. It's based on a true story about I think it was Scottish or Irish soldiers that were prisoners of war in a Japanese prison camp during World War II. Really, really powerful Christian message without being Christianese preachy. In my opinion, it's like the role model of how it should be done. Like the message of forgiveness and redemption is unmistakable, and there's certainly Christian themes in it, but it very much easily plays to a secular audience in a way that they can receive it. And so I probably, because I included what I just said basically in one of my presentations for the Take on the World, that I was thinking about Brian, because he wrote the script for that. He adapted I think it was a book that he adapted the screenplay to it. And so I was thinking about him, and then like I think it was the day after that that I'm on his email list. He sent an email out, and he said that To End All Wars is on YouTube for free. You can watch it on YouTube. And I was like, what? This is crazy. I was just thinking about him yesterday. And then I also watched the special features for to End All Wars, and both of them were fantastic. And so I was like, what? This is a little bit too serendipitous. I'm going to reach out to him. I hadn't spoken with him in a while, and said, hey, man, I just saw your email. Like crazy. I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking about To End All Wars, and then you just sent that to me. So I watched it again. Really powerful stuff, bro. And I invited him to consider writing a movie script idea that I have for like a seed side movie. And he's like, dude, I'd love to, but right now I just got too much, already on my plate, and I just moved to Texas.
Right?
I'm like, you just moved to Texas? Where'd you move to? He told me, and the town that he moved to is the exact same town that I moved to when I first came here in 2003, which is only like 20 minutes from where I live now. So that was crazy. But he's a preterist. He's pretty.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's pretty hardcore preterist, and I think it was him that said regarding the message being preached all the world is he comes from a position, and you have to if you're going to take a preterist view, that that the Bible uses hyperbolic language, in addition to symbolic language, and he to his credit he cites a number of cases where hyperbolic language is used in the Old Testament, like all the world this and all the world that or whatever, and clearly all the world didn't really mean what it was said there. But the issue that I would have there, because like even Luke in the book of Acts, chapter 19, I think it's verse 10, talks about all that dwell in Asia heard the word of Jesus, both Jews and Greeks. And so I mean, when you look at the size of Asia and you look at Paul's ministry, in places where Paul didn't go, that's part of Asia, clearly all of Asia didn't hear the gospel, but Luke is using hyperbolic language there. He's kind of exaggerating. But the problem I have with that idea is when Jesus in Matthew 24:14, he says, "This gospel of the kingdom must be preached in all the world first as a witness to all nations." So you have two alls there, all the world, all nations. I'm going to take Yeshua for what I don't believe he's exaggerating there, and knowing the heart of God, that he's not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. That just makes sense. That he really wants the whole world to be evangelized. And so my presentation, I'm like, look, guys, I mean, China is probably one of the oldest civilizations, dating at least as far back as the Shang dynasty, which ruled in the 1600 BC time frame forward. And some even say that their version of Noah is Fo Hi Yao, that he was the founder of China. Yeah,
I agree.
And I'm like,
because the language reflects.
That he taught the language.
The gospel.
And I'm like, a direct flight from Jerusalem to Hong Kong is 4,800 miles away. So you're gonna try to tell me that the disciples, from 30 AD to 70 AD made it all the way to Hong Kong? Yeah, no, and that's not even counting the Americas, which there's really good reason to believe that Solomon had sent people to the Americas during his reign, and if you consider the distances involved there. So if everybody who thinks we're getting out of here tomorrow, like Yeshua said, that's one of the biggest prerequisites, is that the kingdom message must be preached in all the world to all nations. That hasn't even happened today in the 21st century.
Right, exactly.
We're still not there. So if you're waiting for Christ to return, then we better get busy, because
still stuff to do.
There's a lot of stuff to do. And when I was in the foreign mission field, at least the statistics at that time, as recent as 2010 anyway, was that something like 5 billion people are still unreached, and and a large percentage of those people are in restricted access countries where you're not even legally allowed to be in there. So that was part of it. But the revelation that I had today, because if you want to go the partial preterist route and say, okay, looking at the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, yeah, you could get so far and say, yeah, that happened in 70 AD. But like, get to 24 or 14, you're like, nope. And then other things that happen. And Luke gets even more emphatic about some things in the Olivet Discourse that clearly didn't happen in 70 AD. But in Revelation, one of the other arguments that they'll use is they say, well, it says, I think it's in Revelation 1, where it says, I'm going to show you these things which must shortly come to pass. And so they will say, see, shortly, not 2,000 years later. So I was like, I'm gonna dig into that today. And what I realized is that was referring to, because in the context of that statement, he's like, get a pen ready. I'm going to tell you some things you got to write to the 7 churches. And so then, Revelation 1 through 3 are the letters that John wrote to the 7 churches. And they're short letters. it's not like the entire book of Revelation. They were given specific. He was given specific instructions to write to the 7 churches specifically, and what Christ had to say to them. And then chapter 3 ends with saying, something like hear what the Spirit has said to the 7 churches, and that's the end of it. That's where if you wanted to take a partial preterist view, that would be applicable to the shortly must come to pass, was the things that he was talking to, and it had to be applicable. If he's writing to 7 churches, they would have got the letters, and it had to be something that would have been applicable to them, not at that time, not 2,000 years later, right, in so-called church ages. So because then you turn the page to Revelation 4, and it says, and then he saw a door open, and he said, come up here, and it says, I'll show you things that must happen hereafter. Now, that's very ambiguous. Afterward, hereafter, could mean any duration of time. And what occurred to me is, as soon as he went from Patmos up to heaven, he went into God time. And in God time, the days with the Lord is 1,000 years, 1,000 years is a day. Right. So in God time, the hereafter that he was shown in all the, we know that prophecy is not for private interpretation. What you have to do, if you take anything but the futurist view, whether you're a historist or preterist or any of the other amillennialists or whatever views that has already happened, that's using private interpretation, and you have the the secret decoder ring that you got in a Fruit Loops box to interpret all of the things that happened in Revelation, that apparently don't mean what they mean. Like a 1,500 mile by 1,500 mile square base city floating down from the sky. You're going to have to use your decoder ring and say, well, that's Nero doing something in Rome, or whatever kind of baloney they come up with. And so, but it helped me, man. It solved, this was something I've been struggling with, is like, Revelation had to have been applicable to the people that lived in that day. And I think from chapters 1 through 3, it was. 4 and following, I think it's written in such a way that every generation is looking for the signs, Yes. And if you read like the so-called church fathers, you'll see, especially for the first 300 years or so, they were all what we would consider futurists, believing that it is yet to happen. And forget which one it was. I don't know if it was Irenaeus or I forget who it was, but he literally had the exact same thesis that I had for the Antichrist, except for me it's Nimrod raising, and the reason is because Revelation 17 talks about that the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit, so we know where he comes from, is and he names 7. 5 have fallen, 1 now is, and 1 is going to come, and his reign will be short. And the beast that comes up out of the bottomless pit is the 8th, who is of the 7. So he's an 8th in line, but he's one of the 7. And one of these early church fathers, writing in the 200s, was using Revelation 17 to say, see, it's got to be Nero. And he was saying that Nero is going to have to raise from the dead. So he had the same mindset of what I've been preaching in my Babylon Rising series for 10 years. So it was kind of really cool confirmation for me, seeing that that he had at least the same mindset of the beast being from the bottomless pit, so he's dead, coming back to life, and he's the 8th who is of the 7. So he's got to be a resurrected character, of the 7 that are listed. So I thought, wow, that is like crazy cool. So anyway, it's been a good week of enlightenment for me, just kind of going through all this stuff and fine-tuning my arguments.
Right on. Have you checked out the Great Commission 3?
I have it, but I haven't read it.
Okay, yeah. There's a text in there called the Apocalypse of Elijah too. There's a Hebrew and a different version, and that one goes into great detail as well. And there's many texts, like the 14th vision of Daniel. There's the revelation of St. John the Theologian. And all of these texts speak about Enoch and Elijah being the two witnesses.
Yeah.
And certainly they haven't returned either. And even in the Gospel of Nicodemus, it says that when Adam and even the thief on the cross, when Yeshua resurrects Adam and his descendants and takes them up into paradise and returns them to their former estate. They get baptized in the Arturian lake, and then they are entering into New Jerusalem, and they meet the thief there who tells them, that he was one of the malefactors that was crucified with Christ, but that he believed, and then he was given a pass to come here to paradise to meet them before, he fulfilled the mission of going down into Sheol and breaking open the doors of iron, the gates of brass, and all that. But anyways, when they finally enter into paradise, there's Enoch and Elijah, and they tell them the story of how they had not succumbed to death, and that they were being preserved, and that they would die in the streets of Jerusalem at the end of days when they come to convict the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And so, and again, I think that is an important part of the end time narrative, especially when you read and you study all these apocalyptic texts. But and I know you are short on time and you don't have a lot of time to really study, but when you do, even if you're taking an airplane ride and you got 4 hours, look through some of those apocalyptic narratives, because they add to and broaden your as far as the knowledge, even the apocryphal text, Second Esdras, and there's another one, the Apocalypse of Baruch. Those are such important manuscripts when it comes to understanding the timeline for the biblical narrative and the end of days, what would be the great and terrible day of the Lord and the end time generation, the fig tree generation, all that. And so I think that I know not a lot of people have heard or read or studied these manuscripts, but there's I think 24 apocalyptic texts in that Great Commission 3, and they will help to broaden and expand and to detail. They greatly elaborate on what's going to happen in the end of days. And I think that if people study especially these preterists, that it would be hard for them to hold on to their viewpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just made quick notes of where is the historical evidence for the events described in the 7 seal, trumpet, and bowl judgments? You read through those and how? Again, you got to have the secret Fruit Loops decoder ring, right? To if it's all allegorical, right? If it's all symbolic language, then most of the world's population is killed, throughout the various judgments. Massive earthquake that made every mountain and island move out of her place.
Yes.
And then later they all disappear. Last I looked, there's still plenty of mountains and islands around. All the stars falling to earth, just as Isaiah and Yeshua prophesied. Who were the ministry? What was the ministry of the 144,000? And like you said, where's the evidence of the 2 witnesses? And they specifically do things. They are people. It's not the Gentiles and the Jews, or the church and the Jews, or it's not groups. It's 2 individuals.
Yes, exactly.
And as you point out, numerous texts tell you point blank, it's Moses and Elijah. There are other speculative characters as well, but they're always individuals.
Exactly.
Fiery mountain coming down, being tossed into the sea, killing a third of the aquatic life.
A third, yes.
Bottomless pit opening up with 200 million centaur, scorpion, chimeras attacking people for 5 months. When did that happen, right? Oh, that's the Romans. The mark of the beast and people not being able to die.
Exactly.
Battle of Armageddon waged against Christ coming on his horse with the hosts of heaven following him after the sky splits open. The New Jerusalem city with a 1,500 mile by 1,500 mile base coming down from heaven to earth. There's so many things. I'm like, guys, you might as well throw the book of Revelation out. I mean, I don't get it, man. But there's a shocking number of people that I'm finding that are starting to embrace I'm really surprised, especially with the news today. I mean, if ever there was a time for eschatology, to really be ramping up right now, and everybody has been teaching it to say, "I told you so." It's 2020 and 2021.
Now's that time, right?
When you were talking, I made a note for myself because I don't remember the address, but I believe it's I keep hearing 4th Esdras, but sometimes 4th Esdras is listed as second Ezra?
Second Esdras is a second Esdras,
Yeah.
Estras,
Yeah.
but it's also the same as for Ezra, Ezra.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the same text,
The
just
same
a
text.
different different translation.
I
I think one's Aramaic, one's Greek,
Okay.
or something of that nature.
I don't remember the address, but I do remember that it's in Fourth Ezra, or Second Esdras, that in the last days or in the end times, pregnant women will give birth to monsters.
Right. Yeah, that's also in the Cave of Treasures, and it also speaks about the giants being released, and that's also in Isaiah 13 in the Septuagint, in the Brenton Septuagint.
Yeah, that's where it says, "Speak to the gates, ye rulers. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath." It's like, man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, man. And there was something else that encouraged me, and I can't remember if it was in Matthew or Luke. I want to say it was in the Luke passage, or maybe even both. But when it talks about you will be delivered up to the authorities, for my name's sake, and he says, don't think about what you're going to say; it'll be given to you, at that time. But it says you will not be harmed, like something like not a hair in your head or something. Well, I'll have to look it up maybe over the break. We're getting ready to go to break here. But I was like, wow, that's really cool, because a lot of people are freaking out, rightfully so, about the the times we're in, and
it's crazy. But I've heard testimony from, I forget the exact person, but she was talking about how these Satanists, they will kidnap Christians, and they were talking about how this one woman who was part of this covenant, and that they used to do these sacrifices, and that these blood rituals, and she's converted and became a Christian, because she said that sometimes when they were going to torture this Christian, that all of a sudden the person was dead and gone, and it reminded me of that passage as well, that the spared so that you wouldn't have to endure and go through all that. But that was one of the testimonies.
That's awesome.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER.
Once in a decade, a true story comes along that remembers the future. After 6 Amazon bestsellers, I have completed the epic Birth Trilogy, a true story of Earth. By reading the Birth Trilogy, you will journey with the characters from the origin of Earth to its final destiny in a white-knuckle ride that combines the intrigue of Tom Clancy with the epic scope of Prometheus and Interstellar. You will learn more about the purpose of life, the mystery of death, and the true nature of your soul than you thought possible. The Birth Trilogy is now available on Amazon and Kindle. The audio version is a free bonus when you buy the paperback, so even if you're not a great reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you. Use the Amazon app today and buy the Birth Trilogy, spelled B-E-A-R-T-H, or search for my name. I'm Brooks Agnew.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
We're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, here on TFR, joined with my co-host and friend, Zen Garcia. Right before the break, we were discussing end times and the book of Revelation, and I was talking about the Olivet Discourse. And during the break, I looked up that verse. It's in Luke 21, verses 12 through 18. It says, "But before all these things, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and to prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what you shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but there shall not an hair on your head perish." So that's an interesting passage, though, because it says some of you are going to die, but then it says not a hair on your head perish. So maybe you die, but your hair lives. But I don't know what the deal is there. But I mean, there's a bit of encouragement there. It's like, I'm going to be there with you. In other words,
right? Endure to the end.
I saw a meme somebody had posted, I think it was on Facebook, with supposedly a letter written by Corrie ten Boom from China, saying, rebuking the preacher of Rapture Camp for not preparing people for the days that they're coming, and the disillusionment that has happened as a result of it. And she was talking specifically about the persecuted church in China that she was apparently working with, and of course relating her own events during World War II, and saying, look, there's no rapture for these people. There was no rapture for me. What makes you think you're getting out of it?
Right. Yeah, and what's going on in China, that is really some hardcore. I mean, we don't even understand or know. As to the kind of things that they're enduring. I know that just the one group, the Falun Gong, those Christians, they're being targeted and persecuted, put into jail, and having their organs harvested.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's hardcore.
It's just horrific, man.
It is.
I don't know, bro. I mean, I try not to get too wigged out about it, and I do find myself crying out for justice on a fairly regular basis.
Yes. Well, it will come. It will come, and in that day, there definitely will regret all the things and the stances that they took.
Yeah. Well, I reviewed where we left off on your show last week, and it looked like you were almost through with the Targum. It was either the Targum or the Legends of the Jews. It might be Legends of the Jews version of Genesis 45, I believe.
Yes.
You left off with Jacob saying, "Yeah, I'll go down to buy food that we may not die of hunger."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe I know exactly where I am, so I can continue, or if you want to
that's
catch
good.
up.
Yeah, that'd be good to catch us up there or finish off there. I think the paragraph starts with Judah offered his portion in the world.
Yes. Yeah. Thank goodness it saves the place where I am, where we end off, so I don't have to look it up every time.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, let me share this, and then continue. All right. All right. Judah offered his portion in the world to come as surety for Benjamin, and thus solemnly he promised to bring him back safe and sound. Oh, you don't see it?
No.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, I guess I don't need to, but...
No?
No.
Yeah, let me try one more time. I'll just share the whole thing. Okay. It says generic. I don't know why that is.
Well, that's all right.
Okay.
The video audience will be the same as the radio audience.
Yeah, all right. Judah offered his portion in the world to come as surety for Benjamin, and thus solemnly he promised to bring him back safe and sound. And Jacob granted his request and permitted Benjamin to go down into Egypt with his other sons. They also carried with them choice presents from their father for the ruler of Egypt, things that arouse wonder outside of Palestine, such as the murex, which is the snail that produces the Tyrian purple, and various kinds of balm, and almond oil and pistachio oil and honey as hard as stone. Furthermore, Jacob put double money in their hand to provide against a rise in prices in the meantime. And after all these matters were attended to, he spake to his sons, saying, Here is the money, and here is a present, and also your brother. Is there aught else that you need? And they replied, Yes, we need this, besides that thou shouldst intercede for us with God. Then their father prayed, O Lord, thou who at the time of creation didst call enough to heaven and earth when they stretched themselves out further and further toward infinity, set a limit to my sufferings too, say unto them, Enough, God Almighty, give you mercy before the ruler of Egypt, that he may release unto you Joseph, Simon, and Benjamin. This prayer was an intercession not only for the sons of Jacob, but also for their descendants, that God would deliver the 10 tribes in time to come, as he delivered the 2, Judah and Benjamin. And after he permitted the destruction of 2 temples, he would grant endless continuance to the 3rd. Jacob also put a letter addressed to the viceroy of Egypt into the hands of his son. The letter ran thus: From thy servant Jacob, the son of Isaac, the grandson of Abraham, prince of God, to the mighty and wise king Zaphanatha-paneah, the ruler of Egypt. Peace. I make known unto my lord the king that the famine is sore with us in the land of Canaan, and I have therefore sent my sons unto thee to buy us a little food, that we may live and not die. My children surrounded me and begged for something to eat, but alas, I am very old, and I cannot see with mine eyes, for they are heavy with the weight of years. and also on account of my never ceasing tears for my son Joseph, who hath been taken from me. I charged my sons not to pass through the gate altogether at the same time when they arrived in the city of Egypt, in consideration of the inhabitants of the land, that they might not take undue notice of them. Also I bade them go up and down in the land of Egypt and seek my son Joseph. Mayhap they would find him there. This did they do, but thou didst therefore account them as spies. We have heard the report of thy wisdom and sagacity. How then canst thou look upon their countenance and yet declare them to be spies? Especially as we have heard, thou didst interpret Pharaoh's dream, and didst foretell the coming of the famine. Are we amazed that thou in thy discernment couldst not distinguish whether they be spies or not? And now, O my Lord King, I send unto thee my son Benjamin, as thou didst demand of my other sons. I pray thee, take good care of him, until thou sendest him back to me in peace with his brethren. Hast thou not heard, and dost thou not know what our God did unto Pharaoh when he took our mother Sarah unto himself? Or what happened unto Abimelech on account of her? And what our father Abraham did unto the 9 kings of Elam, how he killed them and exterminated their armies, though he had but few men with him? Or hast thou not heard what my 2 sons, Simon and Levi, did to the 8 cities of the Amorites, which they destroyed on account of their sister Dinah? Benjamin consoled them for the loss of Joseph. What then will they do unto him that stretcheth forth the hand of power to snatch him away from them? Knowest thou not, O king of Egypt, that the might of our God is with us, and that he always hearkens unto our prayers, and never forsakes us? Had I called upon God to rise up against thee, when my sons told me how thou didst act toward them, thou and thy people, yea, all would have been annihilated, ere Benjamin could come down to thee. But I reflected that Simon my son was abiding in thy house, and perhaps thou wast doing kindness unto him, and therefore I invoked not the punishment of God upon thee. Now my son Benjamin goeth down unto thee with my other sons. Take heed unto thyself, keep thy eyes directed upon him, and God will direct his eye upon all thy kingdom. I have said all now that is in my heart. My sons, take their youngest brother down into Egypt with them, and do thou send them all back to me in peace. This letter Jacob put into the keeping of Judah, charging him to deliver it to the ruler of Egypt. His last words to his sons were an admission to take good care of Benjamin and not leave him out of their sight, either on the journey or after their arrival in Egypt. He bade farewell to them and then turned in prayer to God, saying, O Lord of heaven and earth, remember thy covenant with our father Abraham. Remember also my father Isaac, and grant grace unto my sons, and deliver them not into the hands of the king of Egypt. O my God, do it for the sake of thy mercy. Redeem my sons and save them from the hands of the Egyptians, and restore their 2 brethren unto them. Also the women and the children in the house of Jacob prayed to God amid tears and entreated him to redeem their husbands and their fathers out of the hands of the king of Egypt. Great was the joy of Joseph when his brethren stood before him, and Benjamin was with them. In his youngest brother he saw the true counterpart of his father. He ordered his son Manasseh, the steward of his house, to bring the men into the palace and make ready a meal for them. But he was to take care to prepare the meat dishes in the presence of the guests, so that they might see with their own eyes that the cattle had been slaughtered according to the ritual prescriptions, and the sinew of the hip, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, had been removed. The dinner to which Joseph invited his brethren was a Sabbath meal, for he observed the seventh day even before the revelation of the law. The sons of Jacob refused the invitation of the steward, and a scuffle ensued. While he tried to force them into the banqueting hall, they tried to force him out, for they feared it was but a ruse to get possession of them and their asses, on account of the money they had found in their sacks on their return from their first journey to Egypt. In their modesty, they put the loss of their beasts upon the same level as the loss of their personal liberty. To the average man, property is as precious as life itself. Standing at the door of Joseph's house, they spake to the steward and said, "We are in badly reduced circumstances. In our country we supported others, and now we depend on thee to support us." After these introductory words, they offered him the money they had found in their sacks. The steward reassured them concerning the money, saying, "However it may be, whether for the sake of your own merits or for the sake of the merits of your fathers, God hath caused you to find a treasure. For the money ye paid for the corn came into my hand." And then he brought Simon out to them. Their brother looked like a leather bottle, so fat and rotund had he grown during his sojourn in Egypt. He told his brethren what kind of treatment had been accorded unto him. The very moment they left the city, he had been released from prison, and thereafter he had been entertained with splendor in the house of the ruler of Egypt. When Joseph made his appearance, Judah took Benjamin by the hand and presented him to the viceroy, and they all bowed down themselves to him to the earth. Joseph asked them concerning the welfare of their father and their grandfather, and they made reply, "Thy servant our father is well, he is yet alive." And Joseph knew from their words that his grandfather Isaac was no more. He had died at the time when Joseph was released from prison, and the joy of God in the liberation of Joseph was overcast by his sorrow for Isaac. Then Judah handed his father's letter to Joseph, who was so moved at seeing the well-known handwriting that he had to retire to his chamber and weep. When he came back, he summoned Benjamin to approach close to him, and he laid his hand upon his youngest brother's head and blessed him with the words, "God be gracious unto thee, my son." His father had once mentioned the children which God had graciously given thy servant. And as Benjamin was not among the children thus spoken of, for he was born later, Joseph compensated him now by blessing him with the grace of God. The table was set in 3 divisions, for Joseph, for his brethren, and for the Egyptians. The sons of Jacob did not venture to eat of the dishes set before them. They were afraid they might not have been prepared according to the ritual prescriptions, a punishment upon Joseph for having slandered his brethren, whom he once charged with not being punctilious in the observance of the dietary laws. The Egyptians again could not sit at the same table with the sons of Jacob, because the latter ate the flesh of the animals to which the former paid divine worship. When all was ready and the guests were to be seated, Joseph raised his cup and, pretending to inhale his knowledge from it, he said, "Judah is king, therefore let him sit at the head of the table, and let Reuben the firstborn take the second seat." And thus he assigned places to all his brethren, corresponding to their dignity and their age. Moreover, he seated the brothers together, who were the sons of the same mother. And when he reached Benjamin, he said, "I know that the youngest among you has no brother born by his own mother, next to whom he might be seated. And also I have none. Therefore, he may take his place next to me." The brethren marveled one with another at all this. During the meal, Joseph took his portion and gave it to Benjamin, and his wife Asenath followed his example, and also Ephraim and Manasseh, so that Benjamin had 4 portions, in addition to that which he had received, like the other sons of Jacob. Wine was served at the meal, and it was the first time in 22 years that Joseph and his brethren tasted of it. For they had led the life of Nazarites, his brethren, because they regretted the evil they had done to Joseph, and Joseph because he grieved over the fate of his father. Joseph entered into conversation with his brother Benjamin. He asked him whether he had a brother born by his own mother, and Benjamin answered, I had one, but I do not know what hath become of him. Joseph continued his questions. Hast thou a wife? Benjamin, yes, I have a wife and 10 sons. Joseph, and what are their names? Benjamin, Bela and Becher and Ashbel, Gera and Naaman, Ehi and Rosh, Mupim and Hupim and Ard. Joseph, why dost thou give them such peculiar names? Benjamin, in memory of my brother and his sufferings. Bela, because my brother disappeared amongst the peoples. Becher, because he was the firstborn son of my mother. Ashbel, he was taken away from my father. Gerar, he dwells a stranger in a strange land. Naaman, he was exceedingly lovely. Ehi, he was my only brother by my father and my mother together. Rosh, he was at the head of his brethren. Mupim, he was beautiful in every respect. Hupim, he was slandered. And Ard, because he was as beautiful as a rose. Joseph ordered his magic astrolabe to be brought to him, whereby he knew all things that happened. And he said unto Benjamin, I have heard that the Hebrews are acquainted with all wisdom, and dost thou know aught of this? Benjamin answered, Thy servant also is skilled in all wisdom which my father hath taught me. He then looked upon the astrolabe, and to his great astonishment, he discovered by the aid of it that he, who was sitting upon the throne before him, was his brother Joseph. Noticing Benjamin's amazement, Joseph asked him, What hast thou seen, and why art thou astonished? Benjamin said, I can see by this that Joseph my brother sitteth here before me upon the throne. And Joseph said, I am Joseph thy brother. Reveal not the thing unto our brethren. I will send thee with them when they go away, and I will command them to be brought back again into the city, and I will take thee away from them. If they risk their lives and fight for thee, then shall I know that they have repented of what they did unto me, and I will make myself known unto them. But if they forsake thee, I will keep thee, that thou shouldst remain with me. They shall go away, and I will not make myself known unto them. Then Joseph inquired of Benjamin what his brethren had told their father after they had sold him into slavery, and he heard the story of the coat dipped in the blood of a kid of the goats. Yes, brother, spoke Joseph. When they had stripped me of my coat, they handed me over to the Ishmaelites, who tied an apron around my waist, scourged me, and bade me run off. But a lion attacked the one that beat me and killed him, and his companions were alarmed, and they sold me to the other people. Dismissed by Joseph with kind words, his brethren started on their homeward journey. And as soon as the morning was light, for it is good rule to leave a city after sunrise and enter a city before sundown. Besides, Joseph had a specific reason for not letting his brethren depart from the city during the night. He feared an encounter between them and his servants, and that his men might get the worst of it. And the sons of Jacob were like the wild beasts, which have the upper hand at night. They were not yet far beyond the city gates when Joseph dispatched Manasseh, the steward of his house, to follow after them and look for the silver cup that he had concealed in Benjamin's sack. He knew his brethren well, He did not venture to let them get too far from the city before he should attempt to force their return. He hoped that the nearness of the city would intimidate them and make them heed his commands. Manasseh therefore received the order to bring them to a halt by a mild speech if he could, or by rough speech if he must, and carry them back to the city. He acted according to his instructions, and when the brethren heard the accusations of theft, they said, "With whomsoever of thy servants the cup be found, let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen." And Manasseh said, "As you say, so were it proper to do. For if 10 persons are charged with theft, and the stolen object is found with one of them, all are held responsible. But I will not be so hard. He with whom the cup is found shall be the bondman, and the rest shall be blameless." He searched all the sacks, and in order not to excite the suspicion that he knew where the cup was, he began at Reuben, the eldest, and left off at Benjamin, the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. In a rage, his brethren shouted at Benjamin, "O thou thief, and son of a thief! Thy mother brought shame upon our father by her thievery, and now thou bringest shame upon us?" But he replied, "Is this matter as evil as the matter of the kid of the goats, as the deed of the brethren that sold their own brother into slavery?" In their fury and vexation, the brethren rent their clothes. God paid them in their own coin. They had caused Jacob to tear his clothes in his grief over Joseph, and now they were made to do the same on account of their own troubles. And as they rent their clothes for the sake of their brother Benjamin, so Mordecai, the descendant of Benjamin, was destined to rend his on account of his brethren, the people of Israel. But because mortification was inflicted upon the brethren through Manasseh, the steward of Joseph, the allotment of territory given to the tribe of Manasseh was torn in two. One half of the tribe had to live on one side of the Jordan, the other half on the other side.
Man, this show's flying by.
Yeah, it is.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
Since the tragedy of 9/11, the Transportation Security Administration says it is keeping our airports safe and secure from attack. What are they? This Onion News Network Undercover Investigative Unit special report may surprise you. We go now to Brian Scott, live from Cedar Rapids.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm here at the Eastern Iowa Airport, where this morning we put the National Airline Security System to the test. We decided to see if TSA's so-called highly trained security personnel could prevent our undercover reporters from smuggling explosive materials on board Continental Flight 742 and detonating them an hour into the flight. Our reporters prepared for their assignment in their hotel rooms early this morning.
Brian, we can see that picture now. What exactly are they doing?
Yes, they took several components that, when combined, form an explosive device and then hid them inside their luggage. They then proceeded to the airport dressed as ordinary business travelers. We have some audio from a 911 call. One of the passengers managed to use her cell phone after our reporters had taken over the main cabin.
There's one more. 2 minutes. I think I'm ready.
What you just heard, Brandon, was our reporter pistol whipping an innocent female passenger in the face while flight attendants did nothing.
That's just
And
chilling.
these same flight attendants did absolutely nothing to stop our reporter from assembling and detonating the bomb, killing everyone on board the plane.
I'm told they could not even subdue our reporter, Dan Baker, who, by the way, was in terrible shape.
You're absolutely right.
Well, I'm sure all Americans hope this serves as a wake-up call to the FAA.
And the FBI, too. Everything required to make the bomb was purchased right on the internet. It cost less than $300 and was delivered to our studio via standard mail. Viewers can get a full list of the components on our website.
Well, thank you, Brian. Now, after the break, we'll talk to relatives of the victims of Flight 742, many of whom are demanding answers from the government.
You must unite what has been set aside.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba. We're at the top of the hour. This show is flying by. But
as per usual.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll let you keep going. Although it was interesting that you're reading from Legends of the Jews, right?
Yes.
That it specifically mentions the device that he was looking at was the astrolabe.
Yes.
That's pretty wild. I mean, because we were speculating, the other ones it says it just brings out a machine or a device of some sort. But,
yes.
But they actually name it as an astrolabe.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting that it says that Isaac had passed away when he was released from prison. That was an interesting correlation.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, continuing.
But even still with the astrolabe, it's bizarre that unless he understood how to read the gospel in the stars,
right,
using the astrolabe, which is a function of the astrolabe that I'm not aware of people knowing how to do, at least not anymore.
Right.
I mean, that it's like a star tracker, you can use it for that, but to use it to pinpoint the location of his brother in this case,
right?
It's telling me my brother's standing in front of me. Like, how did he get that from an astrolabe?
Exactly. The only thing I can think of is that there's connection as far as horoscope, the positioning of all the different planets, which include the sun and the moon, as to when a person was born. The particular date, but I don't know how you would figure out that person's in a room or where they're located according to looking at the stars. That's just bizarre, but interesting. Yeah. All right, continuing. And Joseph, who had I think, I don't know if I put it to maybe try sharing again. I don't know if you can see it or not. But...
Nope.
Okay, something's not right. And Joseph, who had not shrunk from vexing his brethren so bitterly that they rent their clothes in their abasement, was punished in that his descendant Joshua was driven to such despair after the defeat of Ai, that he too rent his clothes. Convicted of theft beyond the peradventure of a doubt, the brethren of Joseph had no choice but to comply with the steward's command and return to the city. They accompanied him without delay. Each of them loaded his ass himself, raising the burden with one hand from the ground to the back of the beast, and then they retraced their steps cityward. And as they walked, they rapped Benjamin roughly on the shoulder, saying, "O thou thief and son of a thief, thou hast brought the same shame upon us that thy mother brought upon our father." Benjamin bore the blows and the abuse of words and silence, and he was rewarded for his humility. For submitting to the blows upon his shoulder, God appointed that his Shekinah should dwell between his shoulders, and he also called him the beloved of the Lord. Joseph's brethren returned to the city without fear, though it was a great metropolis. In their eyes it appeared but as a hamlet of 10 persons, which they could wipe out with the turn of the hand. They were led into the presence of Joseph, who, contrary to his usual habit, was not holding a session of the court in the forum on that day. He remained at home that his brethren might not be exposed to shame in public. They fell to the earth before him, and thus came true his dream of the 11 stars that made obeisance to him. But even while paying homage to Joseph, Judah was boiling inwardly with suppressed rage. And he said to his brethren, "Verily, this man hath forced me to come back hither, only that I should destroy the city on this day." Guarded by his valiant men on the right and on the left, Joseph addressed his brethren, snarling, "What deed is this that ye have done, to steal away my cup? I know well ye took it in order to discover, with its help, the whereabouts of your brother that hath disappeared." Judah was spokesman, and he replied, "What shall we say unto my lord concerning the first money that he found in the mouth of our sacks? What shall we speak concerning the second money that also was in our sacks? And how shall we clear ourselves concerning the cup? We cannot acknowledge ourselves guilty, for we know ourselves to be innocent in all these matters. Yet we cannot avow ourselves innocent, because God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants, like a creditor that goes about and tries to collect a debt owing to him. 2 brothers take care not to enter a house of mirth and festivity together, that they be not exposed to the evil eye. But we all were caught together in one place, by reason of the sin which we committed in company." Joseph: "But if your punishment is for selling Joseph, why should this brother of yours suffer, the youngest, he that hath no part in your crime?" Judah: "A thief and his companions are taken together." Joseph: "If you could prevail upon yourselves to report to your father concerning a brother that had not stolen, and had brought no manner of shame upon you, that a wild beast had torn him, you will easily persuade yourselves to say it concerning a brother that hath stolen, and hath brought shame upon you. Go hence, and tell your father, the rope follows after the water bucket." But continued Joseph, shaking his purple mantle, "God forbid that I should accuse you all of theft. Only the youth that stole the cup in order to divine his brother's whereabouts shall remain with me as my bondman. But as for you, get you up in peace unto your father." The Holy Spirit called out, "Great peace have they which love thy law." The brethren all consented to yield Benjamin to the ruler of Egypt. Only Judah demurred, and he cried out, "Now it is all over with peace," and he prepared to use force, if need be, to rescue Benjamin from slavery. Joseph dismissed his brethren and carried Benjamin off by main force and locked him up in a chamber. But Judah broke the door open and stood before Joseph with his brethren. He determined to use, in turn, the 3 means of liberating Benjamin at his disposal. He was prepared to convince Joseph by argument, or move him by entreaties, or resort to force in order to accomplish his end. He spake, Thou doest a wrong unto us. Thou who didst say, I fear God. Thou showest thyself to be like unto Pharaoh, who hath no fear of God. The judgments which thou didst pronounce are not in accordance with our laws. According to our law, a thief must pay double the value of what he hath stolen. Only if he hath no money, he is sold into slavery. But if he hath the money, he maketh double restitution. And according to the law of the nations, the thief is deprived of all he owns. Do so, but let him go free. If a man buys a slave and then discovers him to be a thief, the transaction is void. Yet thou desirest to make one a slave whom thou chargest with being a thief? I suspect thee of wanting to keep him in thy power for illicit purposes. And in this lustfulness thou resemblest Pharaoh. Also, thou art like Pharaoh in that thou makest a promise and keepest it not. Thou sayest unto thy servants, bring thy youngest brother down unto me, that I may set my eyes upon him. Dost thou call this setting thine eyes upon him? If thou didst desire nothing beside a slave, then wouldst thou surely accept our offer to serve thee as bondman instead of Benjamin? Reuben is older than he, and I exceeded him in strength. It cannot but be as I say, thou hast a lustful purpose in mind with our brother. Therefore, let these words of mine, which I am about to speak, find entrance into thy heart. For the sake of the grandmother of this lad, were Pharaoh and his house stricken with sore plagues, because he detained her in his palace a single night against her will. His mother died a premature death by reason of a curse which his father uttered in inconsiderate haste. Take heed then, that this man's curse strike thee not and slay thee. 2 of us destroyed the whole of a city on account of one woman. How much more would we do it for the sake of a man, and that man the beloved of the Lord, in whose allotment it is appointed that God shall dwell? If I but utter a sound, death-dealing pestilence will stalk through the land as far as, no, in this land Pharaoh is the first, and thou art the second after him. But in our land, my father is the first, and I am the second. If thou wilt not comply with our demand, I will draw my sword and hew thee down first, and then Pharaoh. When Judah gave utterance to this threat, Joseph made a sign, and Manasseh stamped his foot on the ground, so that the whole palace shook. Judah said, only one belonging to our family can stamp thus. And intimidated by this display of great strength, he moderated his tone and manner. From the very beginning, he continued to speak, thou didst resort to all sorts of pretexts in order to embarrass us. The inhabitants of our many countries came down into Egypt to buy corn, but none of them didst thou ask questions about their family relations. In sooth, we did not come hither to seek thy daughter in marriage, or peradventure thou desirest an alliance with our sister. Nevertheless, we gave thee an answer unto all thy questions. Joseph replied, verily, thou canst talk glibly. Is there another babbler like thee among thy brethren? Why dost thou speak so much, while thy brethren that are older than thou, Reuben, Simon, and Levi, stand by so silent? Judah, none of my brethren has so much at stake as I have. If Benjamin returns not to his father, I was a surety to my father for him, saying, if I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever, in this world and the world to come. The other brethren withheld themselves intentionally from taking part in the dispute between Judah and Joseph, saying, kings are carrying on a dispute, and it is not seemly for us to interfere between them. Even the angels descended from heaven to earth to be spectators of the combat between Joseph the bull and Judah the lion. And they said, it lies in the natural course of things that the bull should fear the lion. But here the two are engaged in equal, furious combat. In reply to Judah, when he explained that his great interest in Benjamin's safety was due to the pledge he had given to his father Joseph, spoke, why wast thou not a surety for the other brother when ye sold him for 20 pieces of silver? Then thou didst not regard the sorrow thou wast inflicting upon thy father, but thou didst say, a wild beast hath devoured Joseph, and yet Joseph had done no evil, while this Benjamin has committed theft. Therefore, go up and say unto thy father, the rope hath followed after the water bucket. These words had such an effect upon Judah that he broke out in sobs and cried aloud, how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me? His outcry reached to a distance of 400 parasangs. And when Husham the son of Dan heard it in Canaan, he jumped into Egypt with a single leap and joined his voice with Judah's, and the whole land was on the point of collapsing from the great noise they produced. Joseph's valiant men lost their teeth, and the cities of Pithom and Ramses were destroyed, and they remained in ruins until the Israelites built them up again under taskmasters. Also, Judah's brethren, who had kept quiet up until that moment, fell into a rage and stamped on the ground with their feet until it looked as though deep furrows had been torn in it by a plowshare. And Judah addressed his brethren, be brave, demean yourselves as men, and let each one of you show his heroism, for the circumstances demand that we do our best. Then they resolved to destroy Mizraim, the city of Egypt. And Judah said, I will raise my voice, and with it destroy Egypt. Reuben, I will raise my arm and crush it out of existence. Simon, I will raise my hand and lay waste to its palaces. Levi, I will draw my sword and slay the inhabitants of Egypt. Issachar, I will make the land like Sodom. Zebulun, like unto Gomorrah will I render it. Dan, I will reduce it to a desert. Then Judah's towering rage began to show signs of breaking out. His right eye shed tears of blood. The hair above his heart grew so stiff that it pierced and rent the 5 garments in which he was clothed. And he took brass rods, bit them with his teeth, and spat them out as fine powder. When Joseph observed these signs, fear beheld him, and in order to show that he too was a man of extraordinary strength, he pushed with his foot against the marble pedestal upon which he sat, and it broke into splinters. Judah exclaimed, this one is a hero equal to myself. And then he tried to draw his sword from its scabbard in order to slay Joseph, but the weapon could not be made to budge. And Judah was convinced thereby that his adversary was a God-fearing man, and he addressed himself to the task of begging him to let Benjamin go free. But he remained inexorable. Judah then said, What shall we say unto our father when he seeth that our brother is not with us, and he will grieve over him? Joseph, say that the rope hath followed after the water bucket. Judah, thou art a king. Why dost thou speak in this wise, counseling of falsehood? Woe unto the king that is like thee. Joseph, is there a greater falsehood than ye spake concerning your brother Joseph, whom you sold to the Midianites for 20 pieces of silver, telling your father, an evil beast hath devoured him? Judah, the fire of Shechem burneth in my heart. Now will I burn all thy land with fire. Joseph, surely the fire kindled to burn Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, who did kill thy sons, will extinguish the fire of Shechem. If I pluck out Judah, if I pluck out a single hair from my body, I will fill the whole of Egypt with its blood. Joseph, such is it your custom to do. Thus ye did unto your brother, whom you sold, and then you dipped his coat in blood, brought it to your father, and said, an evil beast hath devoured him, and here is his blood. When Judah heard this, he was exceedingly wroth, and he took a stone weighing 400 shekels that was before him, cast it toward heaven with one
shekels.
hand.
What?
What's that?
400 shekels.
Yeah.
What's that equal? I'm gonna do. I wonder if shekels versus pounds. Shekels, 2 pounds.
He was said to be a mighty man.
Wait, yeah, shekels to pounds.
That's a lot of weight, though.
So 400.
Yes.
That's not right. Oh, convert. I'm looking on our website here. Okay, biblical shekel 400. Oh, that's only 10 pounds.
Oh, really?
400 shekels equals. That's not all that impressive.
Right.
I wonder if
maybe it was a different denomination in the past. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
All right. Took a stone weighing 400 shekels that was before him, cast it toward heaven with one hand, caught it with his left hand, then sat upon it, and the stone turned into dust. At the command of Joseph, Manasseh did likewise with another stone, and Joseph said to Judah, strength had not been given to you alone. We also are powerful men. Why then will ye all boast before us? Then Judah sent Naphtali forth, saying, go and count all the streets of the city of Egypt, and come and tell me the number. But Simon interposed, saying, let not this thing trouble you. I will go to the mount, and take up one huge stone from the mount, throw it over the whole land of Mizraim, the city of Egypt, and kill all therein.
Dang, dude.
Hearing all these words which they spake aloud, because they did not know that he understood Hebrew, Joseph bade his son Manasseh make haste and gather together all the inhabitants of Egypt and all the valiant men, and let them come to him on horseback and afoot. Meantime, Naphtali had gone quickly to execute Judah's bidding, for he was as swift as the nimblest hart. He could run across a field of corn without breaking an ear. And he returned and reported that the city of Egypt was divided into 12 quarters. Judah bade his brethren destroy the city. He himself undertook to raise 3 quarters, and he assigned the 9 remaining quarters to the others, 1 quarter to each. In the meantime, Manasseh had assembled a great army, 500 mounted men and 10,000 on foot. Among them 400 valiant heroes who could fight without spear or sword, using only their strong unarmed hands to inspire his brethren with more terror. Joseph ordered them to make a loud noise with all sorts of instruments, and their appearance and the hubdub they produced did indeed cause fear to fall upon some of thy brethren of Joseph. Judah, however, called to them, why are you terrified, seeing that God grants us his mercy? He drew his sword and uttered a wild cry, which threw all the people into consternation. And in their disordered flight, many fell over each other and perished. And Judah and his brethren followed after his fleeing people as far as the house of Pharaoh. Returning to Joseph, Judah again broke out in loud roars, and the reverberations caused by his cries were so mighty that all the city walls in Egypt and in Goshen fell in ruins. The pregnant women brought forth untimely births, and Pharaoh was flung from his throne. Judah's cries were heard at great distance, as far as Succoth. And when Pharaoh learned the reason of the mighty uproar, he sent word to Joseph that he would have to concede the demands of the Hebrews, else the land would suffer destruction. Thou canst take thy choice, were the words of Pharaoh, between me and the Hebrews, between Egypt and the land of the Hebrews. If thou wilt not heed my command, then leave me and go with them into their land. Seeing that his brethren were indeed on the point of destroying Egypt, Joseph resolved to make himself known to them, and he cast around for a proper opening which would lead naturally to his announcement. At his behest, Manasseh laid his hand upon Judah's shoulder, and his touch allayed Judah's fury. For he noticed that he was in contact with a kinsman of his, and because such strength existed in no other family, then Joseph addressed Judah gently, saying, I should like to know who advised him to steal the cup. Could it have been one of you? Benjamin replied, neither did they counsel. Wow.
Wow.
All right.
Discover the extraordinary powers of intuitive healing with pain transmutation, a method of holistic healing for the human soul, body, mind, and emotions. If you are looking for answers and a deep understanding of how to help yourself and the people around you to live a happier, healthier life, this is the right place for you. Learn how to read your soul's history in the Akashic Records. Remove negative energy attachments from your astral body, and start the process of inner and outer pain transmutation. Join Pain Transmutation Community to get started on the path of intuitive healing. Change your energetic state, manifest new and exciting experiences, re-energize your life, and build inspiring connections with others in our community.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new smart wave ventilation unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Jim Ram, retired. In early 2012, I was facing a laundry list of chronic health conditions that my physician was telling me were incurable. I knew there had to be a better way, and I learned how I could reverse every one of my ailments with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. In just a few months, I was able to reverse high blood pressure, gastric reflux, sleep apnea, arthritis, degenerative disc disease, heart arrhythmia, AFib, and many more. And I've lost over 70 pounds and kept it off. Now I'm hosting a radio program that's dedicated to helping my listeners do the same. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're sick of being used as an ATM by your doctor, then you'll want to tune into the Your DIY Health radio program here on Truth Frequency Radio every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern and 6 to 8 a.m. Pacific.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, and we are already in the final half-hour segment of the broadcast. And well, this is your show where you're doing. Last time when I was I guess I was reading Josher, I read for the whole show, so this is payback.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a long account, but at least
it's good stuff.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in it. All right, I'll continue. Then Joseph addressed Judah gently, saying, I should like to know, who advised him to steal the cup? Could it have been one of you? Benjamin replied, Neither did they counsel theft, nor did I touch the cup. Take an oath upon it, demanded Joseph, and Benjamin complied with his brother's request. I swear that I did not touch the cup, as true as my brother Joseph is separated from me, as true as I had nothing to do with the darts that my brethren threw at him, as true as I was not one of those to take off his coat, as true as I had no part in the transaction by which he was given over to the Ishmaelites, as true as I did not help the others dip his coat in blood, so true is my oath that they did not counsel theft, and that I did not commit theft. Joseph, how can I know that this oath of thine taketh upon thy brother's fate is true? Benjamin, from the names of my 10 sons, which I gave them in memory of my brother's life and trials, thou canst see how dearly I loved him. I pray thee, therefore, do not bring down my father with sorrow to the grave. Hearing these words of abiding love, Joseph could refrain himself no longer. He could not but make himself known unto his brethren. He spake these words to them. Ye said the brother of this lad was dead? Did you yourselves see him dead before you? They answered, Yes. Joseph, did you stand beside his grave? The brethren, Yes. Joseph, did you throw clods of earth upon his corpse? The brethren, No. Then Joseph reflected, saying to himself, My brethren are as pious as aforetime, and they speak no lies. They said I was dead, because when they abandoned me, I was poor, and a poor man is like unto a dead man. They stood beside my grave, that is the pit into which they cast me. But they did not say that they had shoveled earth upon me, for that would have been a falsehood. Turning to his brethren, he said, Ye lie when ye say that your brother is dead. He is not dead. You sold him, and I did buy him. I shall call him and set him before your eyes. And he began to call, Joseph, son of Jacob, come hither. Joseph, son of Jacob, come hither. Speak to thy brethren who did sell thee. The others turned their eyes hither and thither to the four corners of the house until Joseph called to them, Why look ye here and there? Behold, I am Joseph your brother. Their souls fled away from them, and they could make no answer. But God permitted a miracle to happen, and their souls came back to them. Joseph continued, You see it with your own eyes, and also my brother Benjamin see it with his eyes, that I speak with you in Hebrew, and I am truly your brother. But they would not believe him. Not only had he been transformed from a smooth-faced youth into a bearded man since they had abandoned him, but also the forsaken youth now stood before them, the ruler of Egypt. Therefore Joseph bared his body and showed them that he belonged to the descendants of Abraham. Abashed they stood there, and in their rage they desired to slay Joseph as the author of their shame and their suffering. But an angel appeared and flung them to the four corners of the house. Judah raised so loud an outcry that the walls of the city of Egypt tumbled down. The woman brought forth untimely births. Joseph and Pharaoh both rolled down off their thrones, and Joseph's 300 heroes lost their teeth, and their heads remained forever immobile, facing backward as they had turned them to discover the cause of the tumult. Yet the brethren did not venture to approach close to Joseph. They were too greatly ashamed of their behavior toward their brother. He sought to calm them, saying, Now be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life. Even such kind words of exhortation did not banish their fear, and Joseph continued to speak. As little as I harbor vengeful thoughts in my heart against Benjamin, so little do I harbor them against you. And still his brethren were ill at ease, and Joseph went on. Think you that it is possible for me to inflict harm upon you? If the smoke of 10 candles could not extinguish one, how can one extinguish 10? At last the brethren were soothed, and they went up to Joseph, who knew each by name, and weeping he embraced and kissed them all in turn. The reason why he wept was that his prophetic spirit showed him the descendants of his brethren enslaved by the nations. Especially did he weep upon Benjamin's neck, because he foresaw the destruction decreed for the 2 temples to be situated in the allotment of Benjamin. And Benjamin also wept upon Joseph's neck for the sanctuary at Shiloh in the territory of Joseph, which he was likewise doomed to destruction. Pharaoh was well pleased with the report of reconciliation between Joseph and the Hebrews, for he had feared that their dissensions might cause the ruin of Egypt, and he sent his servants to Joseph that they take part in his joy. Also he sent word to Joseph that it would please him well if his brethren took up their abode in Egypt, and he promised to assign the best parts of the land to them for their dwelling place. Not all the servants of Pharaoh were in agreement with their master concerning this invitation to the Hebrews. Many among them were disquieted, saying, If one of the sons of Jacob came hither, and he was advanced to a high position over our heads, what evil will happen to us when 10 more come hither? Joseph gave all his brethren 2 changes of raiment, one for use on the ordinary days of the week, and one for use on the Sabbath. For when the cup was found with Benjamin, they had rent their clothes, and Joseph would not have his brethren go about in torn garments. But to Benjamin he gave 5 changes of raiment, though not in order to distinguish him above his brethren. Joseph remembered only too well what mischief his father had caused by giving him the coat of many colors, thereby arousing the envy of his brethren. He desired only to intimate that Mordecai, a descendant of Benjamin, would once be arrayed in 5 royal garments. Joseph presented his brethren, apparelled in their gold and silver, embroidered clothes before Pharaoh, who was well pleased to become acquainted with them, when he saw that they were men of heroic stature and handsome appearance. He gave them wagons to bring their families down into Egypt. But as they were ornamented with images of idols, Judah burnt them, and Joseph replaced them with 11 other wagons, among them the one he had ridden at the ascension to his office, to view the land of Egypt. This was to be used by his father on his journey to Egypt. For each of his brother's children he sent raiments, and also 100 pieces of silver for each. But for each of the children of Benjamin he sent 10 changes of raiment, and for the wives of his brethren he gave them rich garments of state, such as were worn by the wives of Pharaoh, and also ointments and aromatic spices. To his sister Dinah he sent silver and gold embroidered clothes, and myrrh, aloes, and other perfumes. And such presents he gave also to the wife and the daughters-in-law of Benjamin. For themselves and for their wives, the brethren receive all sorts of precious stones and jeweled ornaments, like those that are worn by the Egyptian nobility. Joseph accompanied his 11 brethren to the frontier, and there he took leave of them with the wish that they and their families come down to Egypt. And he enjoined upon them, besides, 3 maxims to be observed by travelers. Do not take too large steps. Do not discuss halakhic subjects, that you lose not your way. And enter the city at the latest with the going down of the sun. In blithe spirits, the sons of Jacob journeyed up to the land of Canaan. But when they reached the boundary line, they said to one another, how shall we do? If we appear before our father and tell him that Joseph is alive, he will be greatly frightened, and he will not be inflicted to believe us. Besides, Joseph's last injunction to them had been to take heed and not startle their father with the tidings of joy. On coming close to their habitation, they caught sight of Sarah, the daughter of Asher, a very beautiful maiden and very wise, who was skilled in playing upon the harp. He summoned her unto them and gave her a harp, and bade her play before Jacob and sing that which they should tell her. She sat down before Jacob, and with an agreeable melody, she sang the following words, accompanying herself upon the harp. Joseph, my uncle, liveth. He ruled over the whole of Egypt. He is not dead. She repeated these words several times, and Jacob grew more and more pleasurably excited. His joy awakened the Holy Spirit in him, and he knew that she spoke the truth. The spirit of prophecy never visits a seer when he is in a state of lassitude or in a state of grief. It comes only together with joy. all the years of Joseph's separation from him, Jacob had no prophetic visions because he was always sad. And only when Sarah's words reawakened the feeling of happiness in his heart, the prophetic spirit again took possession of him. Jacob rewarded her, therefore, with the words, "My daughter, may death never have power over thee, for thou didst revive my spirit." And so it was. Sarah did not die. She entered paradise alive, and at his bidding, she repeated the words she had sung again and again, and they gave Jacob great joy and delight, so that the Holy Spirit waxed stronger and stronger.
This girl entered without dying?
That's what it says, Sarah, yeah.
Hmm.
It was said she was a prophetess, too.
Interesting.
I think also, at the end of days, it says that there would be the two witnesses, and that some of the texts speculate that this will be Enoch and Elijah. But in the Apocalypse of Elijah, it also says that there will be two female witnesses as well, that they will be Tabitha and Sarah. And these two are prophetesses from the line of Adam. So, I don't know what all that means exactly. I've only read it in one account, but it does say that.
Interesting.
While he was sitting thus in converse with Sarah, his sons appeared arrayed in all their magnificence, and with all the presents that Joseph had given them. And they spake to Jacob, saying, "Glad tidings, Joseph our brother liveth. He is ruler over the whole land of Egypt, and he sends thee a message of joy." At first Jacob would not believe them, but when they opened their packs and showed him the presents Joseph had sent to all, he could not doubt the truth of their words any longer. Joseph had had a premonition that his father would refuse to give his brethren credence because they had tried to deceive him before. And it is the punishment of the liar that his words are not believed, even when he speaks the truth. He had therefore said to them, "If my father will not believe your words, tell him that when I took leave of him to see whether it was well with you, he had been teaching me the law of the heifer whose neck is broken in the valley." When they repeated this, every last vestige of Jacob's doubt disappeared, and he said, "Great is the steadfastness of my son Joseph. In spite of all his sufferings, he has remained constant in his piety. Yea, great are the benefits that the Lord hath conferred upon me. He saved me from the hands of Esau, and from the hands of Laban, and from the Canaanites who pursued after me. I have tasted many joys, and I hope to see more, but never did I hope to set my eyes upon Joseph again. And now shall I go down to him and behold him before my death."
Cool.
Then Jacob and the members of his family put on the clothes Joseph had sent, among them a turban for Jacob, and they made all preparations to journey down into Egypt and dwell there with Joseph and his family. Hearing of his good fortunes, the kings and the grandees of Canaan came to wait upon Jacob and expressed sympathy with him in his joy, and he prepared a 3 days banquet for them.
I think that catches up probably to where 45 leaves off.
Okay.
Because Genesis 45 says that's when Jacob says, "Yeah, I'll go down."
Yeah.
So we got about 8 minutes left. I'll give you a break here, and
yeah, thanks.
And I'll read Genesis 46, and that should set us up for next week.
All right.
All right. Genesis 46. And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba. and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. And Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry them. And they took their cattle and their goods which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him. His sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. And these are the names of the children of Israel, which came unto Egypt, Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn. And the sons of Reuben, Hanok, and Phalu, and Hezron, and Carmi. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, and Jamin, and Ohad, and Jachin, and Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanitish woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, Merari. I didn't realize Simeon, I guess maybe I did, that he married a Canaanite also. That's interesting. I'd like to know more about this Shaul character. I wonder what's up with him. And the sons of Judah, and Onan, and Shelah, who were also of the Canaanite woman. And Pharez and Zerah, who came from Tamar, who was not a Canaanite. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Pharez were Hezron and Hamul. And the sons of Issachar, Tola and Phuvah, and Job and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sered and Elon and Jaleel. These are the sons of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the souls of his sons and the daughters were 33. That's interesting. And the sons of Gad, Ziphion and Haggai, Shuni and Esbon, Eri and Erodai and Erli. The sons of Asher, Jimnah and Eshlua and Islui and Beriah and Sarah their daughter, or their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber and Malkiel. Is this the Sarah right there that we were just reading about?
Yeah.
She was a daughter of Asher.
Yes.
Interesting. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and these she bare unto Jacob, even 16 souls. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, Joseph and Benjamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gira, and Naaman, Ahi and Rosh, Mupim and Hupim and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel, which were born to Jacob. All the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim, and the sons of, he only had one, huh? And the sons of Naphtali, Jaziel and Guni and Jazir and Shelim. These are the sons of Bilhah, which Laban gave unto Rachel his daughter, and she bare these unto Jacob. All the souls were 7. All the souls that came from Jacob into Egypt, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons' wives, all the sons were 66. And the sons of Joseph, which were born him in Egypt, were 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, were 70. So that's where we get the 70. And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph to direct his face unto Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and present himself unto him. And he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And it shall come to pass, and it shall come to me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade hath been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, What is your occupation? That ye shall say, Thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth, even until now, both we and also our fathers, that we may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. That's interesting. I wonder if that's clarified as to why. I mean, just looking at the King James, I guess you can make the assumption that, they're all yuppies in Egypt, and you lowly, messy shepherds, you're nasty. That would be
right.
Maybe the assumption. Are you aware of any? I mean, we'll read it next week, or I'll look in the Joshua and Jubilees account. But off the top of your head, are you aware of any reason why the Egyptians felt that way?
It said in one of the other texts, and one of the reasons why they wouldn't sit with them is because the Hebrews ate some of the animals that they worshipped, and like the ram.
Oh.
And so for that reason, they wouldn't even eat meal with them or sit at the same table. And so I take that as maybe being one of the reasons or a cause for them to have such a reaction or perspective.
That's interesting. Because, I think after this, during the time between the time that Jacob's house comes down to Egypt and the time of slavery, that there were some who, as the times got better, left, and went away, and then some became shepherd kings.
Right.
There's a period in Egyptian history, what's it called, the Hyksos or something, I think is the term used, but they were the shepherd kings of Egypt. So
right.
Clearly something had changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been intrigued by the idea of some of the house of Jacob leaving before the slavery and Exodus, that they got out and about, I guess went off on their own. I'm trying to remember where.
I think there is a mention of a people and a nation that were Hebrews that separated themselves. I can't remember the exact story or the account. Probably will come across it in the parallel readings.
Cool. All right, brother. See you next week.
All right, man. Be blessed.
All right. Good night, everybody. See you next week on the Revolutionary Radio Project. Good night, everybody.